Okay, hello everybody and welcome to this week's free Qdabra webinar. My name is Jimmy and I will be your presenter for today. We also have Dawn, who's going to be doing a couple of demos. So let's get started. This week we're going to be talking about some brand new features in FormsViewer that we just released last week, which will allow you or people associated with you to add customizations to your forms that weren't possible before. And we've got some pretty neat stuff to show you. So just to give a quick overview of today's topics, we're going to show you how you can set up a signature control in your form. This is something we developed over the course of the last month, and it's really neat. I'm looking forward to showing this to all of you. That signature is enabled by these new code interfaces in FormsViewer that allows you to write custom code that runs in your forms. So that's we're going to go over those custom interfaces after that. And we have a short demo about mobile forms regarding uploading pictures in InfoPath forms, capturing photos. Now, this isn't specifically a new feature, but it is something that's really nice to use in FormsViewer. You can design forms that look good in your cell phone and take pictures with your camera. So we hope some of you use that technique. So to get us all started, I'd like to invite Don to take the stage. He's going to be demoing some of these features. This last bullet I put here, he's going to do first. So I'll just let him take the stage and he can show us what he's got.
Thanks, Jimmy. So good morning, everyone. My name is Don Lambadan, and I'll be presenting a short demo today. So I'm just clicking on the show screen button here. And let me know, Jimmy, if you can see my screen.
Yep, we can see it just fine.
Okay, great. So I'm going to open up the site for the FormsViewer demo, which should be this one. For some reason it's going back. Let me just grab the link here quickly. Okay, so I'm using an emulator here. So this is an Android emulator, which is supposed to be a emulating a cell phone device. So currently it's showing this link right here while I'm trying to open up the library. So give me a second to fix that. There we go. Okay, so that's how 0365 looks like in the emulator that we're using, and I'm trying to find how to open up a new form or submit a new one. So apologies for that. This is really new for me. I haven't really tried this out yet, so I'm trying to open up a new form.
Could you try opening one from FormsViewer, Don?
Yeah, I'll just do that instead.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm grabbing the link from FormsViewer, and it's searching Google.
Looks like you had a dot at the beginning there.
There we go.
There we go.
Thanks, Jimmy. Okay, so this is the sample form that we have. That it's going to have a signature control, which is for FormsViewer, and currently I'm getting some bugs here. But it should be just showing this section right here, wherein I've got the form to um, get the unload. It's going to get the current user, so it's going to display my name here. But this should be editable. So if, let's say, I would like to change my name to Patrick Halstead, and if I would like to add a signature, I can click this button, and it's going to display an image control right here, wherein you can write or sign it. So I'm just going to put here PH for Patrick's name, Patrick Halstead, and when we're done, you need to click on the capture signature button, or if you want to clear out and repeat or do a different signature, you can just click on clear or cancel if you want to cancel it out. But since we're going to submit this, I'm going to click on the capture signature button. And it's supposed to populate the date as well. Sorry about that. That's another bug. I'm going to fix that right after this. So I'm going to hit the submit button right now, and it's supposed to submit to the library. So there we have it. It has just submitted, and I'm going to show you the folder where it's submitted the image. So the last one here, it should be this one. So it was using the username concatenated with the timestamp. So it should have, if I click on this, it should show the image. So there we go. And if we go back to the library, it should now show the form in read-only mode, along with the image and the date and timestamp. So I really didn't have much time to prepare for this, but it should be working as uh, it should be.
Looks great,
Okay.
Don. Just one comment for you. Everyone would know that I never sign like that.
Well, I'll do something better next time. Thanks, Patrick.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much, Don. I'm going to take the screen back now. Make myself a presenter. Okay, so thank you, Don, again for that demo. That was pretty cool stuff. So now let's look into how you can add that signature control to your own forms. So in terms of the high-level steps, it just requires a few steps. First, you are going to add the resource files to your form. Those are included in today's webinar materials. You're going to add form controls and fields. I'm going to go through this in my demo, but we also have this documented, so you can follow the steps. You're going to modify a config file, which kind of specifies the control IDs and the path to where the control should store the image when you click capture signature. And last thing is you're going to have like some qrules commands to actually load those resource files that you added in the first step. So let's get to it. So for this demo, I'm going to be going back to our trusty expense report form. I have one here called expense report before, which is pretty much one that I demoed in a webinar back in June, with the addition that I've pre-injected it with qrules. So these techniques we're demoing today require the form to have qrules. If you don't have the QRules injector installed on your machine, you can use the web interface in FormsViewer to inject QRules into it. It's really easy to do now. So here we are in our form, and I've got this approval section down at the bottom. It's just got an approve and reject button at the moment. So this is where we're going to add our signature control. So first of all, going back to those first steps I had, we need to add our resource files. So let's go to this folder. We've got signature folder. I'm going to copy this in here. And so first we're going to add the jQuery signature pad file. This is a standard publicly distributed JavaScript file for adding signatures to web pages. I'm going to add the signature.js, which is some custom code we've prepared for tying that signature control into the form. And lastly, we're going to use the this signature.css, which adds some styling to the control. Okay, so we've added our resource files. So the first step is all done. Okay, so next what we need to do is add a few controls to the form. So first thing I'm going to do is going to drag this approval group into the form, and I'm going to make a section control from that. And this is going to serve as a placeholder for our signature control. One thing that's coming up is I'm going to need to look at the source files to find the ID of this section control. So I'm going to put find me here in the section so that I can quickly locate it. Next thing we want is a picture control. So I'm going to need a field for that. So I'm just going to call this signature. And that's going to be a picture or file attachment. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and drag that in and make a picture control from that. Okay, there we go. So I don't want this picture control to show up unless we've already put a signature graphic in the field. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say hide if blank to hide it until it actually has a value. Okay, signature is blank. We're going to hide it. Lastly, let's see, we've got our section, we've got our picture. I'm going to add a calculated value field here. It's just going to say, please sign the form. Please sign before approving or rejecting. Okay, let's make that red. And we will, nope, there we go. And I'm going to make that red. And we want to hide this. We want to show this until there is a signature. So hide when signed is what we're going to do. Okay, until signature is not blank, we will hide this. Okay, and we could add some conditional formatting to the approve and reject buttons to disable them until the signature is there. I won't, since we're a little pressed for time, I'm not going to go to those steps, but that's very simple to add.
Don't forget to check the hide this control.
Right, very good point. Yep, got to check that. Okay, and one more control that we need here is we need a button to show the signature control. This is the way it works as of now. So call this add signature. And we want to give the button an ID. It's always the best practice to give buttons meaningful IDs so that you know what's going on in the rule inspector and things. It's also helpful in this case. So I'm going to call this btn sign. You can call it anything you want, but this ID is going to be relevant when you're setting up the config file. Okay, so we've got we've got our controls all added. Next thing we need, and I'm just going to write down that ID here in my text pad. I'm going to put button sign. Next thing we need is the ID of this section. So there's a config file involved in this process, and what it needs is 3 values. It needs the buttons ID, it needs the sections ID, and it needs the XPath to the signature field, the image field. So we're going to go look for this sections ID. So I've saved my form, and what I'm going to do here, some of you might not know about this trick for extracting the form files, but I don't want to modify my before file since I'm working on that in InfoPath. So I'm going to make a copy of that, and I'm going to rename it to .cab to change it to a cabinet file. And I have WinRAR installed on my machine here, so that gives me this nice context menu to extract this file. So I'm just going to extract that. Makes a nice folder there for me. If you don't have WinRAR, there are ways to extract the source files by using the file menu on InfoPath, but I find that this is much faster. Okay, so we're going to open up the view file. In this case, it's the default view1.xsl, and I'm going to search for that text, find me. Okay, so there we are. There's my find me text, and we see immediately above that we have a div tag that has an XD XCT name, X control name value of section. And this is my section control represented as a div tag in the view. And we can see here that the ID for it is CTRL247. I'm just going to copy that out here. Okay, so I've got my ID. That's all we needed to do with the source files. And so the next thing I need to do is edit the config file. So this file is included in the signature demo form. I've splayed all the relevant resource files out here so that they're easy to access, and we'll be including them in this format when we send you out the webinar materials. So I'm going to open this file in a text editor, and it's pretty self-explanatory here. We've got a couple of outer groups and then a signature element. So my button ID is already BTN sign, since that's what I tend to use when I'm adding these signatures to a form. The placeholder ID is not correct in this case, so we're just going to copy this value over here. Okay, and the destination path for the signature file is different in this form as well. So just going to copy that X path here and paste it in here. All right, and we're all set. And you can see there's a bit of nesting here. The main reason for that is that this is actually a repeating group. So if you wanted multiple signatures in your form, you could just put multiple elements here and just put the config values for each corresponding one. So that allows you to have several. We just have one in this case, so we're going to stick with the one. So my file is updated and all saved. So I'm going to create a data source from that. So receive data, XML document. Going to get my file there, signature config.xml. Okay, just next and finish. And we've got that data source added to our form. So by convention, the signature control is going to look for a data source called signature config and take its configuration values from there. Okay, so I've got my placeholder ID now, so I don't need this find me text anymore. I'm going to get rid of that. And save, just save to make sure we've got it. And the last step here is to add some QRules commands to load in those resource files. So what we need to do is tell FormsViewer that we want it to load these files, the JavaScript and the styling file, so that that logic is loaded into the form. So I'm just going to say load resource files, and so I have prepared these. Oops, nope, that's the wrong place for them. So I want to put them on finished loading. Oh, yeah. So I want to delete this. Yeah, these need to go on finished loading. Okay. So I've prepared over here a list of the commands I need to run. You can just take these from the sample form. That would be an easy place to get them. So first we're going to load in the signature pad. It's important to load this one first, I believe, because the custom code for our signature control is going to rely on that. Then we're going to load in the signature.js. And lastly, we want to load CSS. Okay, so we've got load resource commands for all three of those files. We've got our controls, we've got our config file set up. Let's give this a whirl. Okay, so let's switch over to, okay, now we're in FormsViewer. I'm just going to take us back to the Manage Templates page and expand the demos. And we want to update the expense report. I'm just going to download a backup copy of the before form because I might want to I'll need that later. But let's upload the one I've modified, and I didn't rename it, so it's still named before, but that's okay. Gonna upload it here. Update. All right, so the form is updated. We're gonna go back to our expense report library here where I've submitted a couple of requests in advance, and just open up one of these requests. Of course, for demo purposes, we've made it so that the approval section is just visible to everybody. So we can see that we've got our add signature button here, and this validation message is showing because it hasn't been signed yet. So let's open up that signature control, and there it goes. And I'm going to say JR. All right, I've signed it. I'll capture my signature. And there we go. Now the image control is displaying the captured image, and the image is showing because it's now not blank anymore. We've got the validation message no longer showing because it's been signed, and we're going to go ahead and approve this. Okay, and there we go. We can see that this is approved. I can open it up again. And okay, it looks like the approval section is set to hide after it's been approved, but the image is there in the form. Okay. All right, so that was our signature control. We've got a lot of people already using it, and we hope a few of you have some interest in it, and we'd be happy to help you set it up if you get stuck on any of the steps in the documentation. Okay, so let's take a look at how we did that. The way that we've enabled this is to add some new functionality to FormsViewer to allow you to write custom code that interacts with FormsViewer. So this new custom code interface allows you to add your own functionality. We're also happy to take requests to add functionality for you. And it's especially good for adding features that we're not planning to add to FormsViewer in the near future. And it allows you to add them pretty quickly. Yesterday, I was able to carry out a request in just over an hour. And it's actually that feature that we're going to look at during this demo. But first, let's take a look at the details. And I imagine a lot of you aren't that familiar with writing code, but this is pretty easy to understand, so just bear with me. So what we've got here is that we've got a way to get all the instances, all the FormsViewer instances running in the page. And as of now, we only allow one FormsViewer instance to run in a page at a time. So this would return one instance, but this does leave the possibility to add more in the future. So that returns an array of these instances, and then each of those instances has three methods you can call on it. One returns a collection of all the data connections in the form. One returns a collection of the data sources in the form, and another returns a piece of logic that allows you to interact with the view a little bit and allows you to handle view events right before and after the view renders, and check which view you're on. And so just to delve a little more into this data sources piece, since this is what I'm going to be showing you in our next demo. So that instance.dataSources returns a data source collection. And on that, you can request the specific data source from it. So you call get data source and specify the name, and that returns what we call a data source node. And the data source node has a few methods on it for interacting with the data source and with the nodes and fields and groups within it. You can select all the nodes matching a particular XPath. You can select a single node matching an XPath, so it'll just take the first one that matches if there are several of them. You can evaluate a string to just get the value that's at a particular path. If you've already selected a node that you want, you can call value on it to get its value. And you can also update field values using this set value async. I've noted this as advanced because this is the only one that involves working with asynchronous logic, but it does come in handy, and we actually use this in our signature control for setting the image into the data source when they click capture a signature. So to take a concrete look at this functionality, I've prepared a little demo that involves modifying the buttons in your form so that they open a link. This is a feature that's not in InfoPath. You can't click a button and go to a location. You can put hyperlinks in your forms, but we had somebody who wanted to specifically use buttons to navigate to other places. So with this little feature, now you can do that. So hopefully from our signature demo, you have some idea of the general overview of how this functionality works, where you basically load script files into your form to add the logic. So let's take a look at how this little feature works. So this feature only involves 49 lines of code. It's all shown here right on the page. So what we're doing here is we're setting the data source name to a variable. We're just storing that. We're getting our FormsViewer instance and storing that in a variable. We are retrieving the data source with the name extend buttons and just storing that so that we can use it as we need. we've got a function here that retrieves the button settings for a particular button. So let me back up a little bit here and show you this file. This is just an XML file where I list the buttons. So here again, we've got some button IDs. So let's say I wanted to have an accounting button that took us to our accounting site. I'll continue to have that go to Yahoo for now. And I'll say button sales, and that one will go to Google. So what we're doing in this function here is we're getting one of these based on the ID. If we want the accounting one, we're going to get this button element. Whoops. And if we want the sales one, we're going to retrieve that. And that's just it's going to find the one where the ID attribute matches the ID being requested, and if it finds it, it's going to return it. Pretty simple. Now we've got one more function that that carries out the actions when somebody actually clicks a button. So this takes a button which is passed in from below. We'll take a look at that in a second. We're going to get the control ID from that button that was actually clicked. So we're just going to, this is the attribute where we store control IDs in FormsViewer, so we're just going to get that ID. If for whatever reason that no ID was found or no attribute with that name was found, we just log a warning and exit. Here we're calling that function from above to get the settings, and if they're found, we get the URL attribute from that button. So just getting this attribute here. And we're going to set window.location to that URL to navigate the browser to that URL. And then down here, we're just we're checking that the button's DS is actually there. If there wasn't there for some reason, we just show a warning to say it's not found. If it is there, we're just attaching a click handler to all the buttons in the page so that it can handle the button click using this function up here. And that's all there is to it. So let's see this in action. We've got our extend_buttons.xml file that I've just edited. We've got our, I'm going to open up this QRules blank form. I've just prepared a blank form with QRules pre-injected in it. And let's add some buttons. We're going to say, take me to accounting. And the important thing here is to make sure that the button IDs match the ones I specify in my config file. So there's my accounting button, and here is my sales button. I'll put in an exclamation mark there. Okay, we'll call this company dashboard in the hopes that we'll make this a little snazzier someday. And okay, so I've got my buttons. I need to add my resource file and data source. So I'm just going to add in that button.js, extend_buttons.js file that we all saw a second ago. And I'm also going to add a data source with that config file. Okay, extend_buttons.xml. All right, I've got my script file. I've got my config data source. The last thing I need is to load the script. So just like we saw with the signature control, going to add a finished loading rule. And I've got this prepared here. Going to load extend_buttons.js. Okay. just the one script file this time because we don't have any fancy custom third-party stuff or styles. All right, we've got everything set up. Let's try this out. So again, I've saved this file with the original file name, so we're going to upload that file. Let's create a new template for this. Let's call it Company Dashboard. We'll put this in the demos group. And just going to drag our file over. And let's try it out. And if you recall, our accounting button is supposed to take us to Yahoo. There we go. And our sales button is supposed to take us to Google. And there we go. So pretty neat stuff. That is something I was able to put together in an hour or so. These new features really open up a lot of possibilities for adding some cool stuff to your forms. So just a couple of announcements. We've got a training class going on right now. We're on day 3 right now. Today is about mobile enabling your forms. So we're going to be covering most of the stuff that we did in this webinar here, and hopefully looking at the starter form and how to use that to mobile enable your forms. And tomorrow we'll be on our last day for some advanced techniques, injecting curls, defining mappings, and things that people often want to do with their forms. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, we're also doing the class again on October 3rd through the 6th. So if you didn't make it to this week's, no worries. This is kind of a shakedown, kind of an initial prototype training for this this release, and we're going to do it again on October 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. It's just 90 minutes or less a day. Look forward to having you there if you didn't make it this week.
Great. Okay, so with that, we're going to open the floor to questions. And so if you've got any questions for us, just type them right in. Doesn't look like we've got any at the moment.
Jimmy, I'll ask one. So some people may be wondering the trust level. Back in the days of InfoPath, to add this kind of logic to your form would require a higher trust level, for example, or would it? I guess the question is why is FormsViewer able to do this without the trust level, just in the browser, whereas before with InfoPath we couldn't?
Well, InfoPath did not require a high trust level to use code in its form. As domain trust forms could use code, they just had some restrictions on what the code could do, especially in terms of accessing the local file system and sort of doing things that are privileged actions. Since FormsViewer runs within a browser, we don't really need so much that distinction between normal trust and high trust. So it's basically anything you can do in JavaScript is up for grabs. Of course, we do want to, put an asterisk on that to say if you do anything really wacky, you could just, get your form to stop working. So within reason. And if you're unsure, of course, ask us and we'd be glad to help. So it looks like we've got some questions coming in. How well does the signature feature work in mobile? It works quite well. As Don showed earlier in this webinar, he was demoing that on a mobile device emulator to show how it would look on a mobile device. It's pretty much the same. So it's definitely great for mobile devices and allows you to sign things with a finger and whatnot. The next question, not part of this demo, but does FormsViewer support placeholder text in fields in the browser. I believe placeholder text is not something that we support at the moment. It's on the
Jimmy,
list.
I think it is support, isn't it?
Okay, it might be. It's not a feature that I use often, so
we could just add
definitely.
it to the. You want to just add it to that sample and just see real quick?
Okay, let's try that out. So we've got our blank QRoles form here. Can add a text box and say.
While Jimmy's doing that, Susan, thanks for the third question here. We're just running out of time, so I'm going to play backseat driver again. Sorry, Jimmy. Question from Susan is, will all of this work in SharePoint 2010? Unfortunately, not right now. We're targeting SharePoint 2013 and 2016, and of course, Office 365. And the reason for that is simply the app. FormsViewer is an app. We do have plans to remove its SharePoint dependency and to allow you to use it without SharePoint, and that is on schedule for the next, not the next release, but probably the release after that. Our next FormsViewer release is going to be sometime in October or November timeframe. So it doesn't work in 2010 yet, maybe in the future. Jimmy, so are we good to go with Placeholder?
Yeah, we are. It looks like I misspoke there, and it looks like the placeholder text is working nicely.
Cool. And Mark's got a question. Got any room available? I hope you're okay, Mark. I don't know how far south you are. It doesn't matter, I guess, given the size of Irma. She's a big one. Be safe. Thanks, Shane. Jimmy, awesome job. This is a really amazing demo. I'm going to stop the recording now. If people want to join our training session this morning, we'll go basically cover the same stuff. We've got a couple how-to labs you can go through, and we're going to be doing that next. If you do want to join the training, I know some of you already are going to be joining it. We'll be starting that in about 13 minutes. So we should probably shut down the demo, Jimmy. Thanks. Awesome job, Don, as well on that demo with Blue Sacks.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.